All right, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to another content class, and this is week 11. So you've made it this far. Can finish it. Don't worry. Next week, Friday is going to be our last class, and we'll try as much as possible to cover a lot of things. And also, I'm going to try as much as possible to make the learning curve for this last 1 week a little bit fun. So even though I'm not a fun person, but I'm going to if it's so and Google what can make it fun, I'll go and Google it. Don't worry. So all right, now let us try as much as possible to also listen to all of these things in class. So listen to the theoretical aspect of it. Then we cannot go ahead and start writing codes. The most important thing is understand why codes work before actually writing them. That's the most important thing. Trust me. So now in our last class, we discussed about asynchronism, right? And I'm just going to recap on what we did in the last class again. So when we talk about asynchronism, I cannot explain asynchronism without actually explaining what synchronism. Welcome, sir. Happy New Year. So yeah, I can't explain what asynchronism means um without touching synchronism, right? So I'm just recapping what we did in the last. I think we were in the last class last week Wednesday. But yeah, last week Wednesday. You were online. Yes. Okay. So now let's talk about these two things. So we're going to talk about asynchronism. Now let's talk about asynchronism. Now I cannot talk about asynchronism without actually talking about synchronism. We've talked about these things multiple times. Now I want to talk about JavaScript, right? JavaScript executes programs from top to bottom. So when I say let A equals 10, right? And let B equals 20. Let B equals to 20, then let C equals to, no, let C equals to 50. Let's say 50, right? So when you have let A equals to 10, let B equals to 20, let C equals to 50. If I say console.log and I write A, then I try to duplicate it. Let's say A, B, and let's say C. Now, after saving it up, what are we going to have? In our console, this was going to get printed out to the console. You have 10, you have 20, and then you have what? 50. This is what you're going to have in your console, right? Because of our time, I don't want to check it out. Now, the reason why you're having this is because the natural flow or natural order of JavaScript is that treats elements, or you print out your code from top to bottom. So it takes one particular execution, executes it, move to the next one, execute it, move to the next one, execute it. Now, in the console, you probably see everything come up at the same time, but that's not exactly what happened. What happened was that the first one, A, got executed, moved to B, moved to C, all almost immediately. Do you get it now? So now it depends on how complex the program. Sometimes some programs are very light that just execute immediately. Sometimes some programs are very, very, very bulky that it takes a little bit of time for it to execute. Now that is basically what synchronism is. Now, asynchronism is now like trying to tell you that, oh, since JavaScript executes all of these things from top to bottom, how then do you now have tasks? How then do you now run tasks that actually need to run? How then do you now run two separate tasks that need to actually run at the same time? So what do I mean? I like using this example. You are on Facebook now, and you are trying to log into Facebook. So as you're trying to log into Facebook, what do? You put your password, and then you press send or you press login. Now, as you press login, your button is actually rolling, trying to make sure that it authenticates you. But at the same time, something is happening in the server. And what's happening in the server? Your application sends an HTTP request to the server to check if your credentials or your authentication details are actually available in the server for you to log you in. You understand it now? That's what happened. Now, those are those. How many tasks like that? 2 tasks. First of all, you're trying to log in. Second of all, you're also your application is also trying to check if your credentials actually exist in the server. Do you get it now? So like that, you're running 2 tasks at the same time. But because JavaScript is synchronous, what happens if you run that the normal way? It's not going to work. It's actually going to wait for one to work first before another one works. And that is not really going to allow you create a very, very dynamic user authentication or dynamic application. Because when we talk about dynamic application, we're talking about running multiple things at the same time. You understand? Now that is what asynchronism will help you do. Do we get it? Is this little explanation gotten? So synchronism is like, oh, it just runs everything one after the other. So, but sometimes you need to run multiple applications or multiple programs at the same time. So for you to do that, you use what? Asynchronism. Now that's what it is. So running programs without following the natural order, right, of instructions. You understand? So align for interruptions and what? Concurrent processes. Now that's basically what your asynchronism is. And I used an example, your set timeout function, which I need everybody to what? Understand how to use. So when we talk about set timeout, set timeout is saying, oh, you have to wait for a particular amount of time for this to happen. So other programs are running. So what am I saying? So I said let A equals 10, let B equals 20. So let A equals 10, let B equals 20, let C equals 50. Now, let me try and take A now and wrap it up in an asynchronous function. So set timeout function. So if I say set timeout, right? So set timeout, and let's give it 5 seconds. 5 seconds is that's 5,000 milliseconds. So then I'm going to put it here. Now I'm going to say console.log A. Now let us go live and check what we have out in our Chrome. So now if I check if I inspect and I check my console now, I'm going to refresh. I want you to see it 20, 50, then we're not going to have what? 10 after 5 seconds. Now what happened? I just ran 3 programs together. Do you understand now? Technically, I ran 3 programs together, but one is not waiting for the other. This 10 right here is independent of this 20 and 50. You understand? It is running on its own without actually waiting for these 2 to occur. Or these 2 run on their own without actually waiting for 10 to come first. But if you check the call stack, what is the call stack? Call stack is like saying that, oh, one comes before another. So when you say try to like look for this thing. So when you have like a stack, we're saying that okay, they have positions. So if you check the position here, A came first, Abby, B second, and C third. But if you check what is actually coming out in this place, A is not coming first, meaning that A does not actually care about the other two. It is just running because that's the program you gave to it. Now, but in the normal synchronism, A comes first, right? Before B, before C. But this time around, all of them are just running independently, separately, concurrently. You understand? That's what asynchronism does for you. Now, in asynchronism, you can't exactly talk about asynchronism without talking about 3 important things. Now, the first is what? Callbacks, right? Second, you have promises, right? While the third, you have what? Async and await. Now, these 3 things are very much important, which we've talked about in our last class. So I'm just going to define callbacks again. Let me take this and just define it again in this place. Now, when we talk about callbacks, what exactly do we mean? Now, callbacks are functions. Before I go ahead, do you understand asynchronism now? Good. Now, moving on, callbacks are functions that are passed as arguments to other functions and are executed after a certain event or condition is met. Again, callbacks are functions passed as arguments to other functions and are executed after a certain event or condition is met. Basically, what your callbacks are functions passed into other functions. Simple. That's what they are. So, for instance, let's have this same example that we have here. So, I'm just going to say, so we're going to say function. No, let's use an arrow function. I told you that going forward, I'm going to use arrow functions. So I'm going to say const, let's say greetings, right? Now we're going to have the name. Then now, let me explain something before I move on. When I talk about function, when we're talking about functions, right? You were here when we did function. Yes. I think you were. She was. Do you remember? But do you remember functions? I think we did functions that same day, but we did not really touch it. I just explained it. Okay. So when we talk about function, right? We're talking about a set of code designed to perform one particular function or specific task. So for instance, I want to authenticate a user. I have to create a function to authenticate that user. I want to fix my AC. For me to fix the AC, I need to create a function to fix the AC. You get it now? That's what functions are. Now, when we talk about functions, right? This is how you write your function. You write your function keyword, then you have a function name or a variable name for that function. So I can say greetings, right? Now, in this particular place, right, you cannot have your parameters. I can have any amount of parameters that I have. I can say A. Let me remove this. I can say A and what B. Now, if I now go ahead and give my function like an argument, or let's say I want my function to do something, and I say console.log A times B, right? What have I just done now? I've said A times B. Now, if I for that function to work, what do I have to do? Call out the function, right? I can say greetings, right? That's the function name, isn't it? Then I can say 5, 6. What have I just done? What I have just done now is that I gave this function a parameter of A times B, A and B, and I said, oh, I want this function to perform a specific task, which is what? A times B. Now, after calling out my functions, I'm not going to specify the parameters. 5 is now going to be what? A. 6 is going to be B. What are we going to have? 30. Do you get it now? So if you check your console now, you're going to have what? Oh, cannot see it too. Yeah, can you see it now? 30. Do you get it now? Now that is basically what your functions are saying. Now, when we now talk about callbacks, callbacks now follow the same parameter naming when it comes to setting parameters and functions. You now have to use a function as a parameter in another function, so you can call that function again. Let me explain it. Let's say this B right here is a parameter, right? I can now still go ahead and say, oh, function, and I can say B. What have I just done? Meaning that what in this place right here, yes, you gave B as a parameter, but in this place you are defining it as what as a function. So this is what your callback means. Meaning that what you are calling a function inside another function as a callback. Clear? Or as a parameter. Now let us use a more better example. So now we're going to say we're going to call a function that says hello Paul on one line. This network is bad. Let's see if I can change. Okay, I think we are back now. And I think I'm still recording. Okay, good. So let me share my screen again now so we can get started. All right. So as I was saying, right, let us have an example right here. So what's going to be the example? Example is not going to say, oh, we're going to create a function that calls now this is what I'm saying. We're going to create a function that prints hello Paul, hello, that prints hello Paul, and then at the same time tells me goodbye. You understand? Now, what exactly does this mean? It means that we're going to first of all create a function that says hello Paul. Then we're also going to create another function that says goodbye. But that function is going to recognize that the person is telling goodbye is what? Paul. Do you get it now? So now, what do we have to do? We have to first of all create a function, give it a parameter, then call that function in another function so that it can tell me goodbye. Are you getting the scenario? Are you getting it? Again, we'll create a function that says, oh, hello. Then we'll call that function in another function that says what? Goodbye. That's all. So how do we do it? So we can have function, so const greetings, right? You are going to have two parameters. Now, parameter is going to take the name of the person, right? You can use anything that you want, first name, last name. I'm just using name. And then I think name is even, let's use first name, right? Then we're not going to take a callback. Now, this callback can also be any name. I can easily just say name of person. It does not exactly have to be callback, but I'm just trying to use callback so you know what the callback function is. Now, after that, we're not going to go ahead and create the function. Then I'm going to say console.log, right? Then we're going to have, let's say hello, then first name. Don't forget first name. Now, then we're going to have a callback. Do you get it now? So what exactly did I do here? What I did here is that I created a function that says first name and then that has two parameters. What are the two parameters? First name and callback. Then I say console.log hello first name. So whatever name they put here is going to be what? The first name. So if I say Paul, that's going to be what? Hello Paul. Then we're not going to have a callback. All this callback is going to do is say what? Goodbye. You understand? So that's exactly what we're trying. So on the first line here, what do you have? Hello, Paul. On the second line, what are we going to have? Goodbye. So now if I go ahead now and I create the callback, I can now go ahead and say, okay, now let's create the callback function. I say const, say goodbye equals to. So we're going to have, now this is the callback, right? Now, the callback is not going to have what? Console.log goodbye. Now, you can now go ahead and say greetings. We are going to have what? Now, two parameters. First is what? First name, right? So I can go ahead and say Paul. Now, what's the second parameter? The callback, which is this function that is here. You understand it now? So now I want you to note how it worked. Please look at it very well. I said callback, right? And I go ahead and I define my callback here. I call that my callback here. Then I define this function. Goodbye, console.log goodbye. Now, how does this function connect with this one? It's because after calling out my greetings here, I put my first name as what? Paul, right? Then I will now go ahead and put this goodbye as this callback function. So if I come right here and I say, comma, goodbye, what have I just done? I've said this goodbye is now your callback function. So if I save it up now and I check it out, what am I going to have? Hello, Paul, goodbye. You understand it now? So what is this? What is it telling you? I want you to check the line. Check the line here. The line is what? Line 33 and line 38. Now check it out. What it has just told you that, okay, this particular line belongs to what? The name, hello, Paul. Then this particular line, right, tied to this particular function now belongs to what? Goodbye. Now that's just what it's trying to tell you. So you can call a function inside another function. Everybody's looking at me. It's like we are trying to get it, but we don't get it. Do you get it? It's like, do you get it? Miss Favor, do you get it? Inside which function? The creating function. Because it's a callback function. If you notice, we are not exactly putting this as a function here. It's a function. But looking at it, did I put this here? No. Do you get it now? So we have to tie this particular function to this callback parameter. So yes, this is a parameter, but we have to change it to a function. To change it to a function, you call it out like this. Do you get it now? So that's why when I call it, I just have to like put it as a parameter and automatically recognize it as a function. Let me have another example. So let's see if I can explain it better. My head is actually full. I'm trying to look for other examples. So let's have another go at it. So I said greetings. Oh, it's a mistake. Yeah. No, let us use the function everybody knows. Function, then greetings. Now, what exactly am I saying again? You have two callbacks. Scratch it. Let's say multiply. Now, what exactly are we going to do? What we want to do is that we want to say on the first line, it's going to tell you, oh, what you're trying to do here is multiply two numbers, A and B. On the other line, which is not going to be the main function that multiplies, what are you going to have? The result of what you're multiplying. So what am I saying? On the first line, I'm going to have 2 times 3. On the other line, I'm going to have what equals to what 6. Do you get it now? So now, that is what we're going to be doing. So what are we going to do? We're going to have 2 parameters. So we're going to have A, comma, B. Then you're also going to have comma, callback. That's what I'm trying to do. So A and B is this thing, then comma, callback. Then we're going to have what? So let's go ahead and say console.log. Let's say A times B. Do you get it? Now, what you're going to have here is what? A times B. Then you're not going to have your callback function. Now, you're not going to go ahead and what? Actually multiply the two numbers together. So I cannot say multiply. Then we cannot go. So let's say, so it's giving me what I'm about to do. But let's just go ahead and say 5, then comma 10. Or let's use 2 and 3 so we understand it. 2 and 3. Then I'm not going to have what? The function. Are you getting it? So then we're going to have what? A function. Then you can go contemplate multiplication. Now that's all. Now, what you've just done now is that what you've gone ahead to have your callback in this case. So now, as you can see, you have what multiply and to multiply, which is this, then this particular function. Now, if you check it out, 6 multiplication. I have to explain that again so that everybody understands it. So let us do the same way with this. So we can go ahead and create another function. Let's just create another function. Now, in the other function, I'm going to say function multiply num. Now, what this multiply num is now going to have is not going to go ahead and have that particular function that now displays the result. You understand it now? So in this case, I'm just going to say multiply num will now have what console.log. Let's use back to you just multiplied let's say $A and $B. Now, so $B and then the result. Okay, let me just go ahead and use this thing. Okay, I think there's a mistake here. Now, good. Now, what we just have is now what we said. You just multiplied $A and $B, and the result is what? So let's check the result. And the result is what? A times B. So go ahead and put it like that. I don't think we need this. Move this. Now let us try it out and let's see what we have now. So now, how exactly are we now going to call this function? So how are we going to call this function is what? We're going to use multiply, and then we're going to call out what? Multiply num function. So as we're going to say multiply, right? Let's just say multiply. Then we're going to have 2,5 or 2,3. Then we're also going to have what? Multiply num. Now, if you check it out, now what do we have? We're going to have what? 6, you just multiplied undefined. Ah, Jesus. Wait, oh. Oh. So when did you multiply 10 and 20? Oh, I understand. I understand. So let's just leave this. Let's just leave this because obviously this one is so I think I told us local and global variables also. Yeah, so there's a reason why this is going to show and this one is not going to show. So let me remove this one. We don't need it. Let me remove it. So just say you just multiplied two numbers. Wait, no. So now, all right, good. So now let us check that and let's see what we have. Now we have what 6. You just multiplied two numbers. Again, I'm going to go over this so you understand what we did again. So I want everybody to understand what callbacks are. Callbacks are very much important. Now, you might not use callbacks that much because, of course, you have facts. You use callbacks now. You use callbacks a lot. So let me say that. You use callback a lot. So now, let's say you want to multiply two numbers again. What do you do? So on one line, you are printing out the result. On another line, you are printing out you just multiply two numbers. Those are two different functions. So what do I have to do? I can say function multiply. Let's say more. Why am I always writing C before N? Function multiply, right? Then we're gonna have A comma B. Then comma the callback function. Do you get? So that we will now use this callback function to actually get the other function I want to do. That's exactly what your callback is. Now you go ahead and you can say console.log. So we're gonna have console.log, then A times what B. Now we've done the first thing. The next thing right now is to what? Write out your callback. So we are gonna have what? Callback. Now it's not this callback we now use to what? Get the text of what you just multiplied. So you go ahead. So we're gonna create another function, right? You can do it in multiple ways. You can do it this way, or you just create another function. Now I can just go ahead and say, let me just do it this way. I'm gonna say multiply, which is a new function, right? Now, which is me calling out this particular function here. Then multiply, we're multiplying 2 and what 3, right? Then we're gonna have a function. That's your callback function that is now tied to this callback here. Do you get it now? Callback function. Then we're not going to go ahead and say console.log, right? You just multiplied. Then we're going to use our $sign. A and what? A and what? B. Now let us check it out and let's see what we have. So if you check it out now, what do you have? Oh God, it's giving me 10 and 20, which is not something that I want. Sorry? Yes, but it's still not going to it's not going to work. So let's uncomment and let me show you. It's not going to give you undefined now. So it's even giving you error. So A is not defined, you see. Now, the reason is because, let me just go over this again so everybody gets it. The reason why you're having that issue is because in JavaScript, you have something called global variables, and then you have something called local variables. You understand? Now, global variables are those variables defined that affect the whole workstation. So what am I saying? This is a global variable in the sense that it is outside of any scope. So any variable that is outside of a function, if statement, when you say scope, scope is like a particular block of code designed for a specific function. So any variable that is outside of that kind of scope is a global variable and it's going to affect your total project. But variables like this is a variable, hope you know, a parameter. Now, variables like this that are defined, so I can easily say let C equals 10. This is a variable. But this is local variable, locally scoped. Why? It is inside of a function, and if you try and console.log C outside of that particular function, what are you going to have? Undefined. See, C is not defined. You get it now? Because C is only defined in this function, but not outside. But if I bring this C out now, what you're not going to have is now, you're not going to have what? 10, because C is now defined. You understand it now? Now that's what your local variable on your global variable is trying to tell you. So that's why when I'm saying multiply A and B, what happened? It is giving me error. Why? Because this particular A and B, they are locally scoped. Do you get it now? That's why it's giving me error. I just wanted to like point that out. So let's just say you just multiplied two numbers. Now, if you check it out now, what do you have? You're not going to have what? Just multiply two numbers. Now, this is your callback. This is basically what your callback is about. Now, you might ask me, how does callback affect Mr. Ishmael? Do you understand it now? Okay. Now, you might ask me this question. How does callback affect asynchronism? Because if you look at it, I'm just calling back functions. But you should also note something that you just did two, you just wrote two functions twice, and then you were able to run them at the same time. Now let me show you. 6, you just multiply two numbers. Technically, you run them at the same time. It is not as if one is actually waiting for one to work. You run two functions, but you are running them as a callback. Now, if you bring this thing into authentication, you bring it into more asynchronism work, you find that it's not easier for you to call back functions easy and then make them work independently or concurrently. Now, that is how callback is very, very much important. Now, you might say, oh, why not just use statements? Why not just use your normal? Why can't I not even come here, come right here and write my function in this place instead of calling it out? But like that, you are doing them synchronously. But callbacks will not help you achieve this thing asynchronously. Now, that's basically what your callbacks are. So, do we understand callbacks? Do we understand why it is important? And you state now, this why is time running? It's 12:24. Wow. Do you understand it? I'm going to give us time to write it out. Just write this particular callbacks. Then when we come back, we'll talk about promises, right? Then we'll now move on and talk about async and await. Then I'm still thinking of we should do one more thing, but maybe I'll just give us a rest. Then on Friday we'll continue with what we have. So let me stop recording so we can write this out.